Hello, I'm Ric Edelman, and this is The Truth About Money. On today's show,
I had one of the companies that just kind of went poof.
There's a joke in estate planning that if you have an enemy, name them your executor, because it's a thankless job fraught with lots of hassle.
I have 3 children, ages 12, 10, and 6, and thinking about how we save for their future education, which isn't too far off.
We're doing okay there, Rick.
No. I'm the one who tells you that.
Okay.
How much money do you have in savings and investments?
You know, if I'm on patrol in Iraq in my vehicle and my driver is driving and he's concerned about his finances at home and he's concerned whether he's going to be able to pay the next month's rent, is he really focusing on the mission at hand as we're going down the road in Iraq or Afghanistan?
That's all coming up right here, right now on The Truth About Money. Remember the credit crisis of 2008? Did you sell any of your investments back then? We asked people out on the street, and here's what they said they did.
That moment in time single-handedly almost made me stop messing with stocks, honestly. Just because of how quickly it would drop, and I'm not used to seeing that.
We tried to just hold on to what we had and kind of be patient and ride it out. Luckily, we have several more years before retirement, so we kind of just tried to hold tight and hope that things got better.
Yes, because I had one of the companies that just kind of went poof.
Actually, I lost a couple of stocks from my retirement, so I was very concerned about that.
The company was gone. There was no stock left.
So you just lost your money?
You just lost the money, yeah.
It's a dice game, I'll be honest. It's like playing Russian roulette or something.
It's human nature to want to do something during a market crisis. You know the phrase, don't just stand there, do something. So, naturally, there's a tendency to sell stocks and stock funds while the market's falling. But sometimes the smartest thing to do is nothing. And we get this big lesson on this, not from Wall Street, but from soccer goalies. Yeah, soccer goalies. Let me explain. Many soccer games are won or lost during penalty kicks, or in the shootout if the game ends in a tie. The ball is placed just 12 yards from the goal line. A professional player can kick the ball so hard that it takes only a few hundredths of a second for the ball to reach the goal line. Now, if you're the goalie, you want to stop that ball, but you can't wait for the ball to be kicked to figure out where it's going. It moves too fast. So goalies have to decide before the opponent kicks the ball. Will he kick the ball to the left, to the right, or down the middle? Imagine you're the goalie. You're standing on the goal line. There's an equal chance that the ball will be kicked left, right, or center. So what do? Do you jump left? Do you jump right? Or do you just stand there? Well, I'll tell you what you won't do. You won't just stand there. You'll jump either left or right. In fact, one study found, somebody studied this, they found that goalies jump left or right 95% of the time, even though the ball goes down the middle a third of the time. So why don't goalies stay in the middle more often? Simple. They're afraid they'll look stupid. Goalies know that 80% of penalty kicks are successful. Chances are the goalie will not block the kick. And the only thing worse than not blocking the kick is looking stupid while not blocking the kick. For the goalie, nothing looks more stupid than just standing there while the ball whooshes by. And that's why most goalies choose to jump left or right. By jumping left or right, they're taking action, and taking action looks better than inaction, even though the action actually hurts their results. Well, what does all this have to do with investing? Simple. When the market falls sharply, investors think they need to act, which means they should either buy or sell. Well, they sure don't want to buy while prices are falling, so they sell. It never occurs to them to do just nothing. Hold. Both investors and goalies prefer action over inaction. They jump even when they shouldn't. So whether you're a goalie or an investor, take this page from my playbook. Don't just do something, stand there. Choosing not to act is really an action all of its own. The questions that people ask me at our live seminars are probably the same questions you have on your mind. Take a look.
Hi, Rick. Would you discuss the tax implications for the beneficiaries of a family trust?
The tax implications of a trust depend on the kind of trust it is and whether or not the beneficiary is eligible to receive money from the trust and whether or not they actually do receive money from the trust. A trust is a person. It's what the lawyers call legal fiction. When you create a trust, you are creating a legal document that has the very same powers and rights and responsibilities as a human being does. So a trust can own assets, and a trust can invest assets. And if the trust earns a profit, it will pay taxes on those assets. And Congress has created a separate tax schedule for many trusts because in the old days, people used to use them as tax dodges because they had different tax benefits and so on and so forth. Bottom line is this. A trust is going to pay taxes just like an individual is going to. The question is whether the trust is going to pay the taxes or whether the beneficiary is going to pay the taxes. And it depends on the nature of the trust you're establishing. It depends on who the beneficiaries are, whether they are people or organizations. For example, charities are common beneficiaries, and how much income they're receiving and the nature of that income. So there are a lot of generalities that are impossible to answer here. The bottom line is you've got to determine what are we trying to accomplish. So let me put it to you. Why are you wanting to create a trust?
I'm actually the trustee for my uncle's family trust, which he set up for his sisters. I'm trying to figure out the best way to disperse the assets that's most advantageous to them.
What you need to do is read the trust agreement. It will stipulate all the details of how the money is supposed to be invested, who gets the money, and under what circumstances. And in most cases, a certain amount of money has to be distributed annually to the beneficiary. And when that happens, that is considered taxable income to the beneficiary. There may be additional tax liabilities to the trust depending on the corpus and other aspects that need to be delved into with an estate attorney. The bottom line is that the money is ultimately going to be taxable to somebody, depending on how the money is invested, and you as trustee have a legal obligation for the caretaking of the assets so that it is used for the best interests of the ultimate beneficiaries. And sometimes there's more than one beneficiary. Sometimes there's an income beneficiary, and sometimes there is an asset beneficiary. So, for example, you might have one beneficiary who gets to use the income, but the asset itself goes to somebody else when the income beneficiary dies. So it can get rather complicated in a bit of a hurry. And the only thing I can say is that you, as the trustee of your uncle's trust, probably means that your uncle didn't like you very much.
I thought he did.
There's a joke in estate planning that if you have an enemy, name them your executor, because it's a thankless job fraught with lots of hassle. So,
thank you.
Glad you're looking out for his daughter.
Thanks.
My producers wanted a burger, not just any burger, but one from the world's largest drive-in. So they went to Atlanta and went to the Varsity Restaurant. While there, a woman saw them with a camera, so this is what they recorded.
Hey Rick, how are you? My question to you today is about education. I have 3 children, ages 12, 10, and 6, and thinking about how we save for their future education, which isn't too far off.
Without a doubt, the best way to save for college is a 529 college savings plan. Got to be careful though, there are a couple of different kinds of 529 plans. There's the college savings plan that I like a lot, and the tuition prepayment plan, which I don't like at all. The best way is a 529 college savings plan. Every state offers one of these programs. It enables you to invest in a variety of mutual funds based on the age of each child. You can open an account with as little as $25 per child, and once the money is invested, it grows without any taxes on the profits. And when the child reaches college, you can withdraw the money completely tax-free. There is no other way that you can save as much money tax-free as you can compared to a 529 college savings plan. Without a doubt, it's the best way to save for college. And you've said the right thing. College isn't too far off. Your kids are already young teens. Definitely get started now. I have what you've been waiting for, the chance to take our quiz of the day.
What is the cost of the average wedding? $30,000, $20,000, $15,000, or $10,000? Stay tuned for the answer.
There's no doubt about it, I have a face for radio. Here's proof from my weekly live show. Joe, you're on the air. How are you?
Hi, Rick. Thanks for taking the call. I'm trying to make up my mind. I'm going to be 57 years old. All the kids' educations are paid for, so that's all behind me. Looking to retire at about the age of 62. Looking to move to my final house, get out of the one that I'm in, lower cost of living in another area. So the decision I'm trying to make is whether I should just take the equity in this house and just pay off the new house or continue to have a mortgage moving forward.
What's the value of this house?
Value of this house is about $750.
And the mortgage balance?
$250.
So you're going to net about $500,000, a little less than that with commissions and moving expenses, blah, 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 but we'll call it $500,000. The price of the new house is going to be?
Yeah, in that range.
About $500,000. How much other savings and investments do you have?
We're doing okay there, Rick.
No. I'm the one who tells you that.
Okay.
How much money do you have in savings and investments?
Yeah, we have about $500K in the retirement, $400K in investments, another $200K in deferred income, which I'll take once I retire, and then about another $350 in trailing options associated with my company.
Okay, and how much money do you and your wife spend on a monthly basis?
We probably spend about $7,000 to $8,000 a month.
Okay, we're gonna call it $100,000 a year that you and your wife are spending on a monthly basis, and you have between the two of you somewhere around $1.4 million, and you're spending $100,000 a year net of tax, which means you need $150,000 a year in income to be able to spend $100,000, right, Anderson?
Right.
And he's got $1.5 million saved, and $1.5 million saved, if he were to retire today, would generate how much income on an annual basis?
Well, about $75,000
So you'd be able to generate $75,000 a year.
a year.
And he's spending $150,000 a year.
Well,
and you began the conversation by saying you're fine.
No. Well, again, we're going to be moving to a much lower cost of living area.
Yeah. No, you're not.
We won't.
No, Joe. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because I don't care where you live, cornflakes cost the same. Gasoline costs the same.
Right.
Movie tickets cost the same. Housing might be cheaper.
Right.
But that's all.
Right.
So don't assume that you're going to save a lot of money when you move to another area. Here's what it's coming down to. Yes, you're doing great, and you deserve applause. Congratulations. You are in very good condition. For someone in their 50s, with the kid expenses largely behind you, and another 10 years or so of working before you retire, with $1.5 million already saved, and $500,000 in equity in your house, you really are in good shape. I'm kind of teasing you when I beat you up like this. However, the point that I'm making is, although you are confident that you're doing well, you are not there yet, which means we need to continue maximizing all available resources. And if you've got $500,000 in cash, and you have a choice of either paying cash for the new house or getting a mortgage on the new house so that you can invest that $500,000 in cash so that you now have not $1.5 million but $2 million in savings, guess which is the right choice?
Got it.
So, yes, you're in good shape and you're making all the right decisions. The fact that he's willing to downsize now,
that's great.
10 years ahead of retirement is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because his $8,000 a month spending will go down. That's the cost savings you're looking at, isn't it, Joe?
Yep.
Because it won't have that mortgage payment anymore. And that is going to enable him to have that much more discretionary income that he can throw into further savings. He's got another 10 years of growth ahead of him.
Not to mention the fact that smaller house is going to include less maintenance, insurance, taxes, upkeep, all that good stuff,
which
too.
further helps him build his wealth. So, Joe, you're in really terrific shape. You really are. And that's why we need to just make sure we do the right thing. And it's much better. Instead of giving the lender or the mortgage company or the real estate builder or whoever it is you're buying the house from, instead of giving them $500,000 in cash right now, you're far better off giving them a check for $5,000 a month.
Got it.
So that you keep
Okay.
your $500,000 and let it grow, you can easily afford the mortgage payment you're going to have just as you're affording it now.
And not to mention the fact with interest rates as low as they are right now, with the thought process that sooner or later they're going to go up, why not go ahead and lock that rate now?
Sure, because if you do it this way, Joe, you can always change your mind later. If you go with a mortgage now, keeping your cash, and you later don't like that, you can always pay off the loan whenever you want because you've got the money. But if you pay cash for the house, that money's gone forever. The only way you'll ever see that cash again is to sell the house that you're about to go buy, and that's the last thing you want to do from a lifestyle perspective.
Correct. It's the last house will be purchased.
There you go. So
Okay.
get a big mortgage,
got
my
it.
friend.
Okay. Thank you.
Joe, thank you so much for calling. Sometimes it's simpler than we'd hope, and not everybody is in such a great set of situations.
The cost of the average wedding is $30,000.
More than 2 million service members are engaged in the defense of the United States, and yet many are encountering an enemy right here at home. Young, inexperienced, often drawing their first paychecks, enlisted men and women are easy marks for scammers and predatory lenders. Rip-offs are so pervasive, and the debt incurred by military personnel is so troubling that the U.S. Department of Defense has labeled the situation a threat to national security. One of the organizations working to address the need is Military Saves, a financial educational program developed by the Department of Defense in partnership with the Consumer Federation of America. I'm joined by Acting Director of Military Saves, Charles Lowery, and the Garrison Commander of Fort Belvoir, Colonel John Strycula. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Charles, tell me, is the issue surrounding enlisted personnel and financial difficulties, is it any different for enlisted than it is for civilians?
Yes, I would say that it's quite different.
Why?
Service members and their families face unique obstacles regarding their service to our country.
It's counterintuitive because many people who are not familiar with the military would say, hey, they get free food, free housing, clothing, medical benefits. Why on earth would their financial situation be worse than that of those who are not in the military?
Well, many of the young service members that have entered the military haven't had the benefit of any financial education prior to that time. They're young, inexperienced consumers, and as a result, outside of many military gates, you'll find countless organizations such as payday lenders, car title lenders, tax refund anticipation stores, you name it, it's outside the gate. And as a result, the Department of Defense, along with consumer groups, work to protect our service members and their families through the Military Lending Act, which was just passed recently in 2006. Because they were being charged such outrageous rates on payday loans, car title loans, tax refund anticipation loans, the DOD and the consumer groups went to Congress to get prohibitions to limit these interest rates to 36%.
And why is it that it's a concern from a national security perspective if some enlisted personnel happens to be mismanaging his money?
They could be blackmailed, they could be turned to try to give up secrets for things. The other thing that I think I would say, the difference between your 19-year-old working at Walmart and your 19-year-old serving in the military is, the difference is the 19-year-old serving in the military is traditionally away from his family and away from his support network, whereas typically a 19-year-old who starts working at Walmart is still in his neighborhood, still has his support network there, whereas a 19-year-old in the military goes to his first duty assignment and is taken away from his family. And that's where the military has to pick up the responsibility of educating the soldiers and understanding that. The other part of it is, too, is there's a financial security part of it, too. That soldier is not going to get laid off, is not going to get furloughed, and those consumer agencies know that.
And you mentioned, Charles, that Congress passed legislation to try to protect the servicemen and women from egregious interest rates, and the legislation put a maximum of how much?
36%.
36%, which means prior to the legislation, these organizations were charging even more than that.
Hundreds of 500, 600, 700%, and upwards, yes.
And so it's a major accomplishment bringing it all the way down to 36%, but of course, any rational, educated, I should say, individual is going to say a 36% annual interest rate is itself still pretty egregious.
I would agree, yes.
And the men and women in the military probably, Colonel, have no clue the financial implications of a 36% annual rate of interest.
I think that education is clearly part of the issue, that we have to get out and educate the soldiers so they understand when they sign for the 36% what that means in terms of the total cost of that automobile or that item that they're going to buy. And that's one of our challenges, getting the education out there.
You mentioned that it's a national security risk because somebody who is severely in debt, in over their heads, unable to make payments, could be compromised through bribery, espionage, etc.
That's kind of a strategic example, but I'd give you a tactical example. Is, if I'm on patrol in Iraq in my vehicle and my driver is driving and he's concerned about his finances at home and he's concerned whether he's going to be able to pay the next month's rent, is he really focusing on the mission at hand as we're going down the road in Iraq or Afghanistan, or is he really focused on his financial situation? So I think you can look at it from both a tactical and a strategic perspective of why it's a problem, and that's why we consider financial readiness an important part of readiness for our force.
Typically when I do seminars, the people in the room are 40 years or older. It's very difficult for me to convince people in their 20s to pay attention to personal finance. Right. And I'm sure you find the same challenge. This 21-year-old recruit is saying, why on earth do I care about my retirement 40 years from now? Besides, by then I'm going to be a colonel or a general, and I'm going to be at a much higher pay scale, and I'm going to get wonderful benefits, and I'm going to quit the military after 20 years of service and then go work in the private sector and enjoy a government pension plus the private sector employment. So why do I care about any of this? And do you find that issue where they just don't really want to pay attention?
I think you do, because a couple of reasons. One, we do education when they come into basic training in the Army and teach them a little about financial literacy, make them financially savvy. But it's something you have to continually teach, because it's something that you teach them once, and then, like you said, they're tempted by that used Corvette downtown, and it has to be a continually education program. And, one of the things that we try to teach is start small, think big, which is the Military Saves campaign. But, if you get a soldier that's 18, 19 years old and you get him to start saving even just a little smallest amount of his monthly payment each month, he gets into a habit. It becomes an allotment. It becomes part of his budgeting. And so as he gets promoted, he gets more money. He starts to put more savings away, increases his quality of life too, but he's also able to increase his savings. By the time he's then in the military, 18, 20 years, he has a significant savings.
What did you call that?
Start small, think big.
Start small, think big. That's part of the Military Saves program?
Yes, that's our theme for Military Saves. And I'd just like to say that in addition to what the Colonel has stated, Military Saves dovetails with the DoD concern about financial readiness, mission readiness. We're in the 5th year now of this campaign to really attach the Military Saves themes to the military culture. And there is once a year during America Saves Week, the end of February each year, when, with the support of DoD and the Undersecretary of Personnel and Readiness, their office, and the support of all the services, that we get a chance to say that start small, think big message.
I think it's all wrapped up in as part of readiness. As I talked about before, if that soldier's thinking and worried about his finances, he's not able to do his job. And so we take it very seriously that we've got to make sure that whether it's that part of the family, we want self-reliant, resilient families that are able to be financially secure, so that soldier doesn't have to worry about those things when he's deployed. And that's why we try to set up the education programs, both not only for the soldier but also for the spouse, because a lot of times the spouse is going to be the one with the money when the soldier's deployed, so they're educated and doing the right things so that soldier doesn't have to worry about that. So I don't see it as a detractor from military readiness, I see it as a component of it.
So just as you're concerned about the health of the servicemen and women, you're equally concerned about their wealth.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much for joining us. Colonel.
Thank you for having me.
Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've posted a link at our website, thetruthaboutmoneytv.com, that will take you directly to militarysaves.org. Before we go, never invest in life insurance. The purpose of life insurance is to protect against a financial loss, not to produce a profit. Not only is buying insurance for profit illegal, it doesn't compare well to genuine investments. If someone depends on your income, buy life insurance. But don't buy life insurance as a substitute for investing. And that's the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. Thanks for watching.